You believe that we have arrived at the last Monday of January in 2024. Have you made any New Year's resolutions or goals that you've set for this year? Have you already abandoned them? I know so many folks try so hard to do this, and one of the things that we just have to remember is to be kind to ourselves and to set realistic goals. So, have you experienced the loss of a loved one this past year? Do you know if they actually had their final wishes and directive plans in place? Do you? I understand that this is something that's relatively new within our purview, that there are so many more options now available to us regarding end of life. And it just takes a matter of a little bit of research and time on your part to make sure that you are prepared when your time comes so that you're not leaving your loved ones with a mess. I've experienced this with my own family, with my mom. In 2003, she woke up on her 68th birthday with a lump behind her left ear. Doctor's appointments, biopsies, and we discovered within a week that she had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now, this came up out of the blue, so we had no idea about it. We also never really had any discussions about an end of life with her. The journey that she took, the amazing strength that she showed, the lessons that I learned in being one of her primary caregivers, being her medical advocate, being her daughter, all of those things led me to where I am today. Hi, I'm Janice Lombardo. I'm a certified end-of-life doula, and I started a company called My Angel Janice, and it was because of my mom. Towards the end, Easter Sunday of 2011, she really wasn't doing well. And I ended up driving her and my dad to the emergency room, and she never came home after that. Now, during that 8-year journey, we never had end of life discussions. We never talked about what her final wishes were. So when we were told by the oncologist that there was nothing more medically that they could do for her, we had to scramble to decide where to bring her. And that whole scenario, I don't wish on anyone, because we decided to put her into a nursing home. I was afraid to let her die at home because I didn't know how it would affect my dad. And when she woke up in the nursing home after we transported her, she was very angry, and I felt very guilty. And it really didn't need to be that way. My primary focus during that 8-year period was keeping her alive. I know that might sound a little bit funny or ironic. We have no control over what happens in our lives in certain situations. This was one of those situations. But if we had had her final wishes talked about openly, lovingly, put into place, then it would have made such a huge difference in how she died and what we could have done versus what we ended up doing. I also don't recommend having to plan someone's funeral while they're actively dying. The time that you're taking away from your loved one is time that you can never get back. So I'm going to share with you the difference between directive plans and final wishes. Directive plans are technically the paperwork, the legal paperwork that you need, such as your will, living will, who are your powers of attorney and the executor or executrix of your will. Now, anytime that you have these documents in place, make sure that you have an alternate chosen. Because I've also seen where executors or executrixes of someone's will and estate have turned around at the last minute and dumped it literally on the family. I had one individual do that at the person's wake. Didn't bother to tell them anything until they were all gathered for the wake and then sprung that on them. So things like that do happen, and they really don't have to. The other thing I want to say about the directive plans, make sure that if you're going to create them electronically, that you have a paper backup. Electronic files are great, but they can be corrupted or they can be lost or they can be tampered with much more easily than a physical paper copy. I'm just throwing that out there as a preventative measure. If you have chosen two folks to be your powers of attorney for your medical decisions and for your financials, leave really explicit instructions how you want them to move forward in your behalf, because it's also come to my attention over the last few years that some folks who have the financial power of attorney responsibilities have somewhat abused them. They're not spending that money on the loved one's care. They're worried and more concerned about their inheritance. I just want to say the inheritance is not yours. That money is not yours. It should be used for your loved one's care. I've seen too many times where individuals have taken that money so that their loved one can go on Medicaid, and they end up not lasting more than 6 months after that transition. So just please be aware. And those of you who are the financial power of attorney, just remember that the example that you are setting and what you are doing to your elderly loved one, your children are watching. Don't be surprised if they do the same thing to you at some point. Now, final wishes. Final wishes are not just a fill in a box or fill in a template. Final wishes include things like, if you have the option, where do you want to die? Who do you want to be with you when that happens? Are you going to need hospice or palliative care? These are things that you need to think about. Do you have it set up so that if you want to die at home, you can? According to AARP, they've done surveys where 80% of the individuals surveyed prefer the option of being able to die at home. The reality is that less than 10% get that wish. And a lot of it has to do with not having your final wishes in place and not having a trusted person to handle those. One other thing with final wishes, do you want a living funeral where you can actually be there and enjoy it along with everyone else and in celebrating your life? Do you want a celebration of life? Do you want a traditional funeral if you are of a certain religious affiliation? Do you have plans in place if you are a veteran? You can have someone come to your funeral and play taps. You can also receive your headstone through the Veterans Administration. But all of this information just needs to be gathered. You need to educate yourself or work with someone like me who can guide you through the process. It does not have to be daunting. It does not have to be done in a day. It can be done over several weeks. One of the other really amazing things about this whole process is that it helps you to actually embrace your mortality. Life is finite. None of us are getting out of here alive. This is a fact of life. This is also something that really should be shared with your loved ones, with your children. I know that growing up, we never talked about it. Sure, we had loved ones who passed away. We went to funerals. We did all of that, but we never actually talked about it. We never put ourselves in that space. We did not feel comfortable going through that process. And thankfully now we have more options available to us. As far as final wishes are also concerned, what do you want to do with your body? It isn't just burial or cremation anymore. You have other options. You have a water cremation, which means that you're actually dissolved with lime and water, and whatever is left over can be used to water plants. They have a new system out where you can actually be turned into mulch. You can have some of your ashes create jewelry, diamonds, things of that nature. So even though it could be a morbid topic, it really isn't. It's part of the cycle of life. And it's not something that any of us will avoid. But what we do today will help to impact our loved ones going forward. The more open and honest that you are today with yourself and with your loved ones, it can only end up being a less chaotic, more beautiful, actually, process. I know that when my family was around my mom when she was dying, it was so peaceful. And it's not something that I would have ever dreamed of it being. So just because it's a scary topic, we don't know what happens. At this point in time, have an open mind, have an open heart, have open discussions. And if you want to know if I'm actually someone who walks the talk, I actually am. I do actually have my own final wishes, and I know you can't really see this, but I do have a big notebook here. I have talked about this with my adult children. I have made sure that they understand what I want going forward. If they have to make medical decisions for me, I have those things in place. I've made sure that there isn't going to be a repeat of my mother's funeral. We are not going to hide in the shadows. We are going to allow things to progress naturally as they are intended to, moving forward without fear, planning for the end, and then going out, living your life, have a ball, enjoy what you have. Don't be afraid. I know that's easier said than done, but this whole process can actually help you with your fear. This process of creating your directive plans and final wishes can give you the strength that you need to make some choices, to actually sit with your feelings about it, to embrace your mortality, and then sharing that with your loved ones before it actually needs to take place is the best gift that you can give, not only to yourself, but to them. Another thing that you might want to do as part of your final wishes is to create a legacy love letter. This letter tells your loved one how much they've meant to you in your life, all of the wonderful memories that you shared. And if you create these letters now, you can give them with a warm hand. That is so much more powerful. It can also possibly help to mend fences so that if you're estranged from someone, you're giving them a gift, but you're also giving yourself one. So that's what I really wanted to share with you all today. I appreciate you listening. I hope that it's helped. And I hope that if you find yourself in a place where you're ready to take those first steps, that you work with someone like an end-of-life doula, like me, or someone that you may know. I'm Janice Lombardo, my angel Janice, and this has been my honor to be with you today. Thank you so much.